My name is Arun Jagtiani, and I'm a proud St. Martin. In a few short weeks, our country is going to be heading to the polls to elect 15 new members to Parliament. There's 126 candidates from 9 different political parties that are contesting this election, and I think the entire voting population can benefit from knowing a little bit more about who these candidates are. Over the next few days, I'm going to interview a few new faces and a few political veterans. So join me, St. Martin, and let's talk politics. Thank you for joining us on another edition of Talking Politics with Arun. I'm joined here today by Mr. James Busby. He's the number 6 candidate of the St. Martin Development Movement, SDM. Mr. James Busby, also known within the community as Raleigh, thank you very much for joining us here today. It's an absolute pleasure to have you. Mr. Busby, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, first off, thanks for having us, Arun, and there's a new show. We are glad to be one of the first on your show.
Thank you.
I'm a St. Martiner, born here in St. Martin, raised in St. Martin. Very active in sports. All my life I've been playing sports. I did national baseball, basketball, volleyball. Went away, studied sports.
Okay.
Could have stayed over there in Holland like everyone else and enjoy all the organized structures that's already afforded to sports and people over there. But I decided to come back to my country and actually receive a quarter of what I could have gotten there to help develop my country. Because I felt there were opportunities where I had a chance to excel in sports and could have gotten further. But the structure for me to be able to get where I needed to get wasn't there. So I thought I would come back and help my younger generation.
Create that structure.
To have that opportunity.
Okay, and do you have any, since coming back to St. Martin, do you have any experience working with government or being a part of government?
That's a good question because I work with government.
Okay.
I am, at present, I'm a policy officer in the Ministry of Education, Youth and Sports.
Okay.
I didn't really start it as a policy officer, which I should have actually, but I started in the field, doing a lot of field works, giving swimming lessons to the kids, physical education to the different schools that didn't have any gyms. All those things were lacking in the beginning when I got back. And, you know, you can't see schools having no physical education for their kids.
Right.
So I initiated some programs in that area, and they have grown, whereas I'm not needed there anymore. So right now I'm with policy, and from that angle, we are again creating programs and policies for the kids to be able to develop into healthy. So
what are some of the programs and policies for the youth that you would like to see introduced, and if given the opportunity, you would introduce within our schools in the community at large?
Well, basically, we have a lot of volunteer organizations out there that assist with, I can say, helping society keep our kids away from ailing situations. And I'm saying we keep leaving it up to voluntary organizations to do such an important job where our kids is concerned. I'm saying with a more structural approach from government, assisting these organizations in a more professional manner, we will not only have a safer environment for our kids, but we'll also can utilize a lot of those kids that don't really have an education to go away for scholarships. We can utilize the NIPA University, have them do small courses and be assistant coaches by the professional coaches that we will be giving the organization to be like a red line through their program. And in so doing, you know, St. Martin have over 10,000 kids.
Right.
And I'm saying, if you employ, let's say, 10 people as begin instructors by one organization, you can smear that along 10, 20 organizations. You got a lot of kids off the road and a lot of effective programs for the kids to.
So recently the world enjoyed, as we do every 4 years, another Olympics. And every time the Olympics rolls around, I think as a St. Martiner, we end up rooting for the other Caribbean islands. I think everyone in the Caribbean celebrated Usain Bolt and some of the other accomplishments we saw from the Jamaican team and several other islands that we saw from St. Kitts as well. How realistic is it, you think, that St. Martin will one day maybe have an Olympic athlete? Do you think, first of all, do we have the raw talent? Is that on island? And why are we not developing, or can we actually develop this talent?
Well, good question, you know. Right now on St. Martin, we have ex-world champions walking around that no one knows about. I mean, I know Mr. Marco London, for example, who
Sure.
won multiple world championships. And so you can go down the line with other boxers and kickboxers.
Sure.
And so you can go. Recently in the Carafesta Games, we had a little girl, Shakiba Pink. Carafesta Games is where they measure the whole Caribbean. And she had a silver medal in the distance running. And I'm saying an athlete like that, who gives so much exposure, when she comes back, she shouldn't have to think about material for practice, material for study,
correct,
and all of those kind of stuff. All that should be provided for her because we know, as a country, this is a shining light that we can continue riding her back on.
Sure.
And I'm saying, by creating something for her, the vacuum will pull a lot of other kids along because...
Sure. So you think a big part of the problem is we're not acknowledging and highlighting the people within our community who are actually performing sports or athletes that are performing on an elite level already?
I feel you can invest $100 million on an airport. I have no problem with that. You can invest $100 million on a pier. I have no problem with that. But I think you should invest at least some money in your social structure, even if there's 5 or 10 million.
Right.
Because that will go a long way in elevating your social structure.
Okay. So what are there other issues that you're also focusing on the campaign, or is the main angle that you bring to the SDM your focus on sports and youth?
Well, basically, people see it as being a focus on sports and youth. But in order to establish that structure, after establishing that structure can have an economic impact for the island as well.
Yes.
Because to start with, in the so-called off seasons, these organizations can bring in sports tourism that can help fill the gap. And having sports tourism afford you more opportunity to create other jobs, because look at you yourself here creating a political show. I'm saying someone can do that for sports.
Sure.
We can have sports newspapers. You see ESPN, those companies are billion-dollar companies. And we have those opportunities right here that we can create.
So you touched on sports tourism, which I've heard quite a bit in the last couple of years. It's become maybe a political buzzword in some respects. Talk to me about sports tourism. What opportunities do we as a tiny island have within the sports tourism industry?
Well, like I said, we are very central in the Caribbean. Just recently we had the CFU, which is a football organization, had an under-15 tournament here. Let's say they had 10 teams here at 20, 25 players per team. You're talking 250 athletes.
Sure.
Because of the age, under 15,
Sure.
their parents come along, which is mother and father, another 500 athletes. They all need a hotel to stay in. They all need rental cars.
Sure.
They all have to eat. And definitely they're not going to leave the island without taking a souvenir. They're going to take in the sights. And we are talking about a program like that goes for about 2 or 3, 4 days, maybe as long as sometimes a week, will generate at least a few million for the island.
Sure.
And I'm saying if you structurally put 1, 2, 3, 4 of those types of activities together, because we have a lot of international affiliated organizations here that can reach out to the international organization and petition themselves, put themselves in position to host these tournaments.
Sure. Now, are our facilities up to par to host these international tournaments?
Well, we have some facilities that definitely at this moment are up to par, but still need a little tweaking to really get to an international standard. Of course, we're not going to be having quality stadiums like they have in the States, where they're spending hundreds of millions of dollars for lights and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But for our standard, let's look at internationally affiliated standard, being able to do pre-World Championship games and stuff like that. We will need a new arena, indoor arena. That's what I see.
Okay.
Right now, I know there's plans for a swimming pool, a 50-meter swimming pool, because we don't have nothing officially on the island.
Wow.
Like I said, we've been having a lot of fighters here, like kickboxing, boxing. It's about time they had a dojo where you can have multi-functional use of, where all of those fight sports can
be
hosted,
take place. Can be held, yeah.
You know, at least the basic for more sports, so that through having a structure, you can petition with your international federation to create even more for your island.
Sure.
Because once they see that you're taking part in their sport, they're going to help you develop to be the best you can be.
So myself, I'm a huge sports fan. I love all kinds of sports, and I agree with you in many respects that I think creating programs for the youths and our future athletes, whether they make it to a professional level or not, will have benefits within the community for generations to come. And I find it interesting, some of the ideas and proposals that you've just mentioned, but how can we pay for this? How can we build stadiums? How can we fund programs within the schools? What ideas do you have on how we can raise this money?
Well, to start with, we have, as government, acknowledged that we have limited funds to be able to portray the sports. So they've created a National Sports Institute on the island to champion that cause on behalf of sport, meaning they can solicit funding by the outside world, as you know, in Dutch you call it particular initiative, which means private initiative businesses. And through doing so, and other ways we can also do, like Aruba, for example, they created a sports lotto.
Oh.
So which means any kind of financing that has to do with sports, culture, arts, stuff like that, is financed from the sports lotto.
Okay.
And so there are many other ways.
So it's a lotto, like a regular lottery that people buy tickets for.
Yes.
Okay.
And so there's many other ways that we can maybe get a 1 or 2 cents off of gasoline and put it in the sports funds, where all of these things then get paid off. And there are a lot of different ways that you can achieve money to be able to create these programs. But first and foremost, I must say, we as a country have been getting around with 20% compliance of the taxes on the island. And I'm saying, let's say we be a little bit more effective and bring that up to 50 or 60%. We will have enough money to put into whatever kind of programs.
Do you think the tax code needs to be restructured altogether? Do we need to look at a different method of collecting taxes, or do you think the current tax code is sufficient? We just need to be harder on collections.
Like Raymond mentioned briefly, on our party we have other candidates that are more versed where tax is concerned. But personally, I feel you can't be sitting back all the time and saying you're collecting 20% taxes and be satisfied with that.
Correct.
You should at least try to create a better infrastructure where you can raise that percentage to 50, 60, 70%.
Of course, yeah.
And in doing so, if you're already making your budget with 20%, what can you do with 40, 50%?
Sure.
And I'm saying it creates jobs, and jobs bring in more money.
Yes.
And if you change the tax system to make it more a way that you can broaden the base,
sure,
I think it would be a lot more. And for us, as the party that's being burdened the most, maybe they can make us have more spending power by putting the wage tax a little less.
Sure.
And different things because of the bigger base you have in tax. I mean, like I said, I'm not a professional in taxes, but I feel there's a lot of ways that we can do a lot better where tax is concerned. I mean, we have about 4 to 5 million tourists coming on our island.
Sure.
They say 2 million coming in by the pier, you have 1.5 million coming in by the airport, you have the yachting community, and you can continue that way. And I'm saying you divide 5 million by 200, in my books that's still just what, 20?
So
40?
40, yeah.
So I'm saying there must be a way where I can squeeze out $40 out of each tourist that comes here and make my budget round. When I go to St. Kitts, I have to buy a license to drive on the road. That's $10. And I'm saying there's a lot of creative ways that monies can be made for the island without burdening the local man. That's all I have to say.
Okay. How would you feel about having the sports or the sports infrastructure subsidized via a cannabis industry? So if there was a cannabis industry created on the island, and the proceeds and tax revenue generated from that, or a portion of that, was used to subsidize sports programs for the youth. Is that something you would?
Well, like I
be
said,
in agreement with, or are you strongly opposed to that?
like I said earlier, I feel that there's ways to generate funds, and that fund should be funneled into a sports funds, and from there you finance on. So it doesn't matter where the money comes from. The percentage will be split up for the different parts of the society, and 5% or 10% will be go into youth, the Ministry of Youth, Culture, Youth and Sports.
Okay.
And then from there, you can funnel it to your programs. And I'm saying, if it's going to be cannabis, because right now alcohol is a big thing on,
Sure.
on the thing.
Sure.
Cigarettes is a big thing on the island. Casinos is a big thing on the island. And so you can name a lot of other stuff
Sure.
that's not really healthy for society, and they're contributing to the makeup of our whole island.
Sure. Well, Mr. Busby, again, I thank you for your time. This is, again, the number 6 candidate on the SDM, St. Martin Development Movement list. We thank you very much for your time, Mr. Busby, and I wish you the best of luck come September 26th.
Thanks for having me.
And I look forward to our follow-up conversations.
Thanks for having me,
Thank
and
you.
we are very happy to be the premiers for your show.
Thank you.